they're really hard to place. You have a huge amount of teams that have made big impacts on the majors throughout the year. They're a team that's shown up at a couple of majors throughout the year as well. You would have known them potentially by their previous name of Xset. People at home, they recently changed org, but they never really shout home about it, you know.
This is the thing for me with M80. Back when they were Xset, their performance in Berlin stunned a lot of people. And I was thinking, if they're able to emulate that, if they're about to relive their former glory, then absolutely, they could end up first in Group D. But as it stands at the moment, Group D has been a bit of a bloodbath. You got Heroic and M80 joined by FaZe, DZ, and Team Secret, none of which are clear standouts at this point.
I mean, that's it. If M80 take the 4 points here, I mean, not including the result that's happening on the game on the opposite stream, then suddenly they leapfrog themselves up from 3rd place to 1st place. There's only really been a little bit of clean points in this group. And even then, those two teams that got clear points lost. One of them being FaZe that lost against M80. It's that sort of story where everybody is still in the stage of kind of beating everybody. We're on the 3rd day. We're getting deeper and deeper into the group. There's only really one team that's starting the day without any points in Secret. Maybe they finish the same way. Well. Who knows?
We'll see. But as for jumping straight into Border here, the big thing for me, seeing that operator ban phase fly by, is the fact that Azami has actually managed to sneak through a very powerful operator on this defense. And in fact, the last time Heroic played this map, it was just 2 days ago against DZ. And DZ themselves banned the Azami in that game. Leaving her in, I do wonder what Noodle's going to be going for. There's a lot of possible opportunities to use that operator, particularly when you're holding CC, holding Break Room. You can see the castle in tandem as well. This one right here, that keeper barrier is fantastic. Gives you so much mobility around CCTV. And we can see Noodle already beginning to make this area his domain.
Yeah, pressure underneath. Sloth is sort of trying to meet them at the turn of the face, but turns face and gets out of there before things come to a shove. The thing about Border, when you have Castle on, you're going to get extensions. You add the Azami onto that as well. As you said, unbanned, it turns it into a little bit more of a claustrophobic space, which when it's a map where you can sort of shoot from one top-end corner to the other through 3 layers of soft, it does change a couple of the approaches that can otherwise be pushed against you. The approaches that we really need to see locked in and solidified here by Heroic, M80. They're quick to get in underneath. They're trying to do some devastation. The one thing that I'm super curious about is that Ossa in the top left. Oh, and the top left of your screen is where we just see Doom get deleted by Spirits.
Very strong start here from Spirits, who's had a phenomenal year, by the way. Of all the players at the tournament, he had the 4th highest rating throughout the 2022 season. And he's already kicked off this game with a bang. He's downstairs, and likely, I expect, going to be going some vertical nades with that sledge.
This is the plan. They're going to see if they can try and get that Talon shield just played right in front of the door and then get the kit planted behind it. It's a 2-step process. The first is clearing the space around the site itself. The second, as you said, the important part, the verticality. If that is in your favor, you might be able to do some damage here. And if it's not, well, they're going to have an easier time getting that kit planted. The C4 doesn't get the catch. The drone does, at least. Here comes the motion. There's the talent shield. There's the deploy. There's going for the plant of Spirits with a hell of a take underneath. They pull themselves back. They set a second one so they don't get rotated on as they've got complete control. The E1D pops off. Noodle tries to, but Yoga has to lock down on the far end, and they don't even need to get their kit down.
My oh my, what a banging start for M80. Beautiful way that they executed that Archives plant, using that Ossa, as you mentioned. Always a risky play going for it. It doesn't take much. A C4, an impact grenade, and your strat can be in the bin. But it was executed to perfection. 2 opening picks for M80. No explosives to deny the Osa's presence.
Defenders, protect your
and a nice execute forces Heroic to consider their options. They're not going to retry Armory. They're going downstairs to give Vents and Workshop a shot.
I mean, there really wasn't anything that was out of place there for M80. The control underneath, the setup of where they wanted to plant. At that point, Kino could have been doing his own thing. Irrelevant of what the rest of the gunners were doing, he was happy, singing a little song to himself, setting up his shields and shop and ready to put that kit down and just sort of do his job. And then he looks up and he's like, oh, the round's over. Everybody's dead.
And I gotta say, Heroic don't have as much recent experience playing against Ossa on this map as perhaps they would like going against a team like M80. Against DZ banned out the Operator, and the time before Heroic played Border, it was against Team Liquid at the Yonchiping Major, and they themselves banned out the Ossa. So clearly not an Operator that they personally like to play against on the map. M80, though, won't be bringing it in the second rounds. Kino's instead gone for some hard breach here with the ace, and probably quite warranted, as you're likely to go for a top take. Joom's already kicked off the affairs with a bit of a peek outside of CCTV. He takes that and runs away with it.
Yeah, we're going to see a bit of that from Joom throughout this showdown. It caused a lot of problems in the first play day that they played, and he seems to try and keep that medal going. That's the thing about this Heroic roster. If you're unfamiliar with the sad news that came into this, this isn't the current roster. They've had to have last-minute fill-ins, and from that, you've just got to sort of buy an idea and build around it. Sloth was the player that stepped in to try and offer some support here, and they're a fantastic gunner, but still, you really need to keep that momentum alive in those players that are your traditional gunners here. Gomez on the back end in the role of the IQ, someone who has absolutely skyrocketed in pick rate throughout this tournament, whether it's just to counter a Solace. Not this time. She is obviously off the board.
Yeah, but Joom hasn't given up yet here at 90. Just misses the shot, but peels back. Heroic know full well they have the advantage. Opening pick, they can fall back as well. Jesse on the desk mentioned a lot about how Heroic are the best team at the event at these opening engagements, and you can see the way that they're playing off of their advantage is perfect as well. Grizzly having this beautiful mirror window to face anyone here on the balcony. Actually going to try and C4, but oh, he does actually clear the aces. That's pretty nice.
In the meantime, Diaz is able to find Sloth on the back end. Gomez gets the head of Joom as well. All this pressure's coming across, and just look at that. An absolute explosion over the second story. They're sort of left a little bit in the wake in the dust of M80, just cleaning their way across. That C4 does get a clean catch onto Gomez. The Pulse trying to hunt through these players.
Oh, no way.
There's another, but Kino, ooh, quick reactions, dips tail, gets out of there, and makes sure he doesn't suffer the same fate from underneath. Noodle, though, how long has he gone unchecked? How long will he go unchecked? And how much will he hold his nerve?
E1D roars out. Diaz, suspicious of a player in that office position. You can see M80, oh so cautious, and Kino's going to drop down. It's got to be on Uno to hold down the side, but Kino's going to take this 1v1.
Oh, he's getting the read. He pre-fires. He probably has no idea that the player is down at that point. And Noodle, an expansive fight to fight here as he's given a bit of the game away. Gets the down onto the first. He probably won't be able to make it above the planter in time to get the second, and it's a post-plant. They slip their way instantly out the room. One on the window, one on the door itself. It's a very tricky retake if they give you nothing. Sometimes you have to take huge risks. You might see if he can get the player back up in time. Drops through, goes for the call. That's it. See if you can try and force this into a 2 versus 2. Obviously, time is still that precious thing. Noodle does have a C4 into pocket, but look at the positions. I believe they've popped themselves up onto the school bus outside. They're going for a long-range angle, and they're making sure that it works. 14 seconds. None of it seen, and M80 get their second round.
Excellent start for M80. They played that post-plant position to a T. Not a lot that Heroic can do in that position, and really the round was won in that mid-round, dealing with that armory position and those vertical players, those roamers from Heroic. It looked like originally M80 was going to stall out, trying to clear that mirror from outside the balcony, but instead they rotated some players, they snuck in on the back. It was a perfect way to pick apart that defense.
All right, Heroic. Back to square one, back to the start of the sort of turn of the phase. And although there's a repick, I'm well aware. Let's see if they stick with this idea, potentially built behind a glass and some smokes. A few dangerous places you can set up that long-barreled bore rifle, and I'm curious to see if it affects the take that we've had from before. It started quite punchy underneath. They knew that that was the first bit of ground they wanted, and it's not always the first bit that teams put the pressure onto, because it sort of highlights what you want to do at the end of it, and it does make it a little bit more dangerous. There are some snappy rotates you can make on border, so I'm curious to see. Ah, no, not even stuck. Swap that to the Iana. Why do I open my mouth?
I mean, because you're excited about a glass.
I am excited.
I'm excited as well. I'm right there with you. In
fact, remember glass entry?
Take me back. You know, he's got the bearing 9. He's got nades these days.
Yeah, bring him in.
Yeah, absolutely. But hey, M80 won't either be bringing that Ossa that they leveraged to success in the first round on this Armory side. probably for the best, but it does make me curious as what strat they're going to go for. You can't really safely go for these Archives solo pushes without some kind of shield to try and force that plant down. So instead, I expect they're going to be looking to take a bit more map control. Whether they look to take CC or Office remains to be seen.
Well, it's starting over on the eastern front. The stairs will fall. There's a couple of pings on the player just on the other side of the triple wall, playing themselves tucked in towards the tuck, and Chris is actually going to reinforce it, make sure he doesn't get caught from underneath.
I think what was happening there was he was actually watching the angle on the jump in, but elsewhere, Gomez has actually opened up the exchange. Where on earth was Noodle? Is he on the rotate here and break? I don't see the little icon.
No, Border doesn't have icons.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, you have to sort of get used to it and on the top down, but hey, sometimes you learn the hard way, and there's another lesson taught it. Kino gets Sloth caught on 90. These open angles, we talked about it with the pickup and the reveal there of the head over the top. Doesn't get the second. Spirits on the long watch. The flashes pop around the corner. They're expecting 90. The C4 expect something else, but this is this map. It becomes so explosive. As soon as you break a single wall, suddenly you can see pretty much everything. Just catches the tail end of the player there. Uno isn't going to go for that fight. Instead, tears the head off of Spirits, offers some support towards the offer side, and as the pings come through, a minute 20, and Kino just as a plan.
Oh my god.
I am going all the way to say no! Caught out at the last second, the sprint. Uno might be able to get the confirm, is maybe hoping to bait the play at this point, saying, well, maybe he'll drop down to get the revive. There is a bit of a shuffle. This is all taking the timer though, James.
Attackers recovered the diffuser.
He's going to play it patiently. Here's the drone. Here's the revive. Surely not here for Uno. He's turned this 1v3 into a 1v1. Now Diaz has got a clutch up. 1E, 1D left available. Oh, bit of a spray. Can't quite find the head. Uno still waits patiently. He has that diffuser. He doesn't have to move. As M80 rest their hopes on Diaz.
It's so close. The scratch is just wailing against the wall, but it's Diaz. At the start of the day, the second best rated player in the whole tournament. He might be, based on Shaiko's performance, the first. I'm not sure if he went down in the rankings. However, he seems dedicated to trying to pull himself back up off of his own laurels. Heroic take a timeout. Let's see what they're saying.
I can confirm, Emmy, at the moment, Diaz is the highest rated player in the tournament, and with clutches like that, you can see why. It might not have been a multi-kill, but it was important nonetheless.
I don't know if we can get just the English mic on Heroic. We don't. Do you speak Portuguese?
Unfortunately, I missed that day in high school.
It's a very cool camera.
Way too much respect. Let's fucking go, boys.
You're giving them way too much respect, he says.
Bring it back now.
Bring it back now for Heroic.
Just keep doing it all around.
I mean, that's what you have to do sometimes. Sometimes you just got to sort of get in the heads, especially showing up to a tournament not with your full roster, saying, don't pay people respect. Play your game. Get into that mindset of, you know, we can outgun. It's one of the quotes of the reason Heroic did so well yesterday was they just had a moment where they went, we're better gunners than them. Let's get a gunning. You ever have that?
Yeah, well,
Gunning time?
me personally, I'm not much of a gunner myself,
okay.
but I'd like to live vicariously.
Is Mandy the gunner of the stack from
let's
APAC
just,
South?
Sure, let's just say that.
Oh no!
For diplomatic reasons, I shall not comment.
Okay. Careful, she might be observing this game. She keeps finding her way back into the observatory. And being like, I observed the game! I'm like, stop it!
Observer at heart forever.
Yeah.
But Heroic are hoping to do more than just watch as M80 roll over them. These attacks have been somewhat close, but that doesn't disregard the fact that the scoreline is pretty decisive. M80 up 3-0. Heroic have a lot of work to do. Of course, they picked this map. They damn well sure are hoping for a better result than what's going on at the moment.
Yeah, I mean, it's your map you're leading in. Now, Border does play itself well to attackers, generally. You have a lot to work with on your defense here. Valkyrie is a pretty common removal. Solus has seen good showing, especially from underneath. With all that soft, people planting a diffuser is just easy pickings for a Solus that's in a good position. However, as we pointed out, the castle and the Azami being on the board especially, it just shows so much growth. I want to see a lack of respect. I want to see Mr. Officer's word met. I want to see Doom and Noodle starting to do Doom and Noodle things.
I mean, it's funny they say that because at the same time, Heroic do have a fairly utility-heavy lineup, a fairly anchor-heavy lineup. You're going to be playing off your mirror winners. You're going to be playing off your evil eyes on the Maestro. That's just the nature of the lineup there, bro. At the moment, it is a bit of a mini-game here of wall denial on the detention walls. And as we can see, there's actually no wall denial in the defensive lineup whatsoever. Perhaps the impact grenades were the risk, but hang on a second. Is this a bit of a rush?
No, I don't know, really. It's the clone came in first. No one quite moved in behind it. There was a second there where I thought they might just try and push on. As soon as they got the read, it's only really the Maestro, but it's only really the Maestro, James. They've got to get themselves a little bit more structured around the back end. You know, you can see the calls come together. Noodle's going for a bit of a long walk around to some other support. Doom's watching above. Grizzly, he's rotating himself back towards the verticality. There are angles. You hope that they've got one open above the window. You hope that you've got one open above the door as well. So as soon as they start trying to break out of detention, there it is. I mean, it's open, but a little bit late on. The work is being done, but I think M80 might just try and see if they can eke a little push past.
That's risky. It's very risky to do so. There is so much vertical lines, there's so much retake potential on this bomb site, so much plant denial potential. Nades are going out, and you can see M80 are going in. But are they going to be able to win these vertical engagements? Kino takes a bit of damage. He's the man with the diffuser. He's got to stay alive. Uno's droned out above, worried about pressure on his windows, but at the moment, he's reasonably safe. There is a player on that balcony. Doom, is he going to go for the run out? Uno needs support now.
They've been able to slip a little bit into the site itself. They move. Grizzly does get spirits, but on the back end, Gomez and Kino are able to get one of their own. There's a slow rotate coming just on the opposite end of beepers. They're seeing if they can just make things uncomfortable. Kino's going to see if he can stick the kid. In the meantime, the call needs to come, but it's happening. The cover comes as well. There's the big Alder going. Noodle across the board gets 1.5, and the down is going to make things very difficult. Yoga all that's left. They've pulled themselves back 20 seconds, 3 players, and once again, look at this, Heroic. They have just separated like the sea and said, all we see is our first round.
Don't treat him with respect, he said, and Heroic absolutely did not. A great round to finally find one on the board for the Europeans. They used that vertical game to its fullest extent. They weren't afraid to try and play for that retake.
I don't know if that was... Did they say NJR?
That's what I heard. I think wrong team.
Yeah. Oh, they're not in this game. What is in this game now? It's finally 2 teams, technically, on the board. There's a fun way of putting it. They got their first round. Can they do it on, I'm going to say, sites that are a little bit more familiar? Detention.
Yeah, well, how about this? It took going to the least favored bomb site on the map to actually win a round. That's
yeah, exactly.
But to be fair, like, M80 are playing a dangerous game, going for a bit of a rush like that. I really feel like M80 could have managed to clear CCTV. Yeah, you have some pretty powerful ops on the board to try and hold that position, but I think on a site like that, a situation like that, you're probably a better bet trying to dismantle the Heroic push rather than going for something a little bit, what I would say, riskier in going for that semi-rush.
It was kind of strange as well. They had the single player watching above. They sort of forced a bit of motion. In that gunfight, they slipped their way into the site. And then they spent about 20 seconds deliberating whether they should go for the plant or not. They were in a position, they tucked themselves in, they were kind of short. I think if they'd have tried to stick the plant at that point, it would have gone off successfully. Whether they would have been able to escape and win the round, an entirely different tale. However, it almost seemed like a second of not doubting themselves, but are we sure this is the right place? That allowed Noodle to get into the position to get the double on the swing, and then from then on, Heroic got the rest of the round. Here though, it's off the backboard and into a new lesson. A bit of pressure once again onto June. Remember, he got the first from this sort of position and the pressure he put on before, but since then, it was a pretty good M80 bite back.
Couple of pre-fires, exchanging bullets on this break balcony. Doom's been droned, but his position was always known. He's playing the bookshelf position now, and Gomez is on the other side. This Commando packs a punch these days, especially if you chuck on that extended barrel. It's a 2-shot kill in a lot of scenarios. Gomez is going in, but he hasn't checked the bookshelf position. Is he going to assume that Doom has cleared on out? Gomez has snuck his way in through 90. Doom knows about it, but Gomez finds one not before the trade can come through.
Oh, that was such a little move, and there's the power of that commando, and there's the power of a grenade noodle removed by it. Over the top, Yoga, it's been a consistency for M80 to be good with those grenades. This hasn't, though. The trades coming back very quick from Heroic. Sometimes that game has been a little bit lackluster throughout this series, and maybe that's what Mr. Officer was sort of ailing towards. There's a bit of respect. Broken all the way across the top. The kit is off in Narnia on the other side of the map itself, so Diaz is just trying to warn the fight there. A great take, but Spirits, where's the push? Where's the pressure? Past the mirror window, swung and dropped before you even got there. Look at this. The rotation up to the top. Uno does some business, puts us into a 1 versus 1.
Yeah, and there's a minute to go. So plenty of time for Diaz to work with here. We've seen him win these ones before. It was just 2 rounds ago that he managed to clutch out that 1 versus 1. Let's see if he can do it again. Sight is Vents and Workshop downstairs. Uno has the cardiac sensor and also still has a C4 in pocket. Whereas Diaz has just used his last E1D from Lion. Uno's retaken vertical map here. This is going to be so good. It means that he can deny through the floor from wherever the plant goes down. He almost managed to get the kill. Reveals that he is the pulse and that he is above. And now Diaz has to decide what he's going to do. Going to go for the plant again. I expect Uno should be able to get to deny it. Opens up the hole in the floor. Using the C4, and now Diaz has a very tough decision to make.
Oh, he's gone close to the hatch. He's going to go for the pre-fire again. Diaz's health fickle and flitters away. He's going to see if he can get one last roll. He goes against it. He knows he's out of time. Oh, no, Uno! Oh, he almost lost that. The call came. I'm up the stairs. He suddenly came back down. And that's a little bit of squeaky bum time.
Oh, man. Oh, Emmy, hold me back. What is this game happening? Uno giving us a heart attack. Diaz did think for a second to go up the stairs, and he almost baited out Uno, but Heroic, regardless of how tight that round may have been, it's a second one on the board.
I mean, if you can piece anything together there, the call was, go up, you got to find the fight. I'm wondering if the call came back out. I don't know what intel M80 had of dropping the hatch. He went straight for it. Maybe he just saw him and got lucky. Uno obviously had the call, he's coming up the stairs. And it's just one of those siege timing things.
I think it's one of those second-guessing yourself.
Yeah.
You know, Diaz is sitting there thinking, I want to plant, but how am I going to plant when there's a pulse above who can just floor bang me? And, you know, then, okay, I got to go for the fight. Starts walking up the stairs. No, that's silly. I've got 3 seconds. I better go back to sight. Oh, hang on. There's a guy dropping down the hatch.
What a gift. Oh, we're out of time. And it's like that thing. It can be so frustrating, but that's the nature of the beast. You have to give credit to Uno, and that's that thing about experience of getting to the position he was at, making sure that he was above. He knew the utility he has in his pockets. He knew where he was at his most powerful, and he made sure he could be an impact with it. That comes with playing this game for a long, long time.
Yeah, M80 actually haven't played this map in a long, long time. Last time they played it was back in October against Astralis in the NAL. And if we look in all-time history, M80, back when they were XZ as well, actually not too fly on this map. They got a negative win rate on both attack and defense. Especially when you've got to deal with things like these mirror windows, it's very hard to do so. Doom's actually going to abandon that mirror window. Try and hold on for a pick, looking for the jump in on the CC window. He'll fall back. This is, of course, Tellers, so this is just an extended roam. He can afford to forfeit some of this map control and peel back the defense.
That's entirely it. He doesn't want to get caught out on the motion, and as we said many, 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 many times with the architects that they have some safety they otherwise wouldn't get. They can play a little bit more dedicated further away and then do this. Pull back, peel back, and try and put the cost down on what then gets brought towards them. Hey, look, another mirror window. Hey, look, another mirror. They're going to see if they can try and reposition. Hope they're getting a little bit too full of bravado, but it hasn't really seemed like M80 are that team. They've made sure that everything is checked and double-checked. They're going for these cautious pushes, and sometimes it's cost them a little bit later on by the heroic plays of Heroic, but here I feel like it's something that's not going to quite get the game. It's just how much of the hold on the top floor do M80 want to hit their head against?
Well, that's the thing we saw in that customs and supply attack, that M80 are not afraid to just hit site and not try and take map control, but the polar opposite's happening here. This is a very slow and thorough take, now opening up these fountain walls. Almost vulnerable to a C4 there. What's going on? Joom, oh, his rotation is cut off. Perfect from Kino. Those Hibana pellets coming in handy, opening up that line of sight, flushing the player into his waiting arms.
Oh, it was such a clean take as well. They had the Ash watching on the far end, and now they're going to see if they can try and get the next clean take on this. Well, they should be able to piece this up. The drone's given the active call, and that's a breakdancing player. There was only really death there, and Gomez gets one more as well. Vertical is theirs. Grizzly cannot quite find a snap back to the head of the players above. They're looking for something just to make things a bit dangerous, but look at the open space he's drifted into. That's so dangerous. Grizzly just deep dives to get themselves set up. They have the rotate on the back end, but Gomez is that rotate too. Grizzly gets one. It is down to Noodle, the newest player, to try and ace out and see if he can pull this round and an even half. The kit is being comfortably planted on the far end. There's enough time to pick it up and change, and this gun, well, it's got a little bit of twist in the right hands, but only about 2 clips left, so he's got to be a bit delicate with the firefight he's taking. That bullet count just eats slower and slower. Spirits does not.
M80 feeling fired up after that one, winning the first half on their opponent's map pick. Heroic no doubt feeling a bit dejected. They'd hope Border would go a little bit better for them on the defense. They've already used their tactical timeout, mind you. And yet M80 have won that first half. Now they move on to the defense. Now, in theory, attacks should be favored on Border in pretty much every region in the world. Heroic actually have a positive defense win rate as well at 59%. However, of course, you know, that's versing all kinds of teams, including Dark Zero, Sandbox, Team Liquid, 10-star in the Northern Premier League, apparently. That was cool.
I like how you're saying that like you have no idea what that is.
Huh?
You're saying that how you have no idea what that is?
I've literally never heard of the Northern Premier League before.
Wow.
I'm joking.
Fresh is crying somewhere.
He's always crying.
Yeah, that's very true. What I love there from M80, and I sort of said it at the beginning in the talk of the mirror window and the drones coming through, is they do it off the back of great teamwork. They're positioning the drones, the intel, the way they're shaping themselves up for the take. I mean, look at the executes on the player. They knew where the mirror window was. They knew where the mirror was. The first step was putting the pressure onto the back end of Fountain with a couple of them there to offer the support and make sure that got off. At the same time, they had the Ash on the far end, and I think one more player inside Armory themselves, ready to double swing if they tried to get out. Every single route out of there was locked. They either had to try and choose to push back and be stuck inside the site or get killed. And exactly the same thing happened towards the end as well. Grizzly went for the rotate. They suddenly had the player watching from the back end of construction. It's just really good, balanced fighting here from M80, and we'll see if on their defense they can try and keep that pressure up against Heroic. Well,
for Heroic, Sloth in particular, he's found a really early position in the building, just 30 seconds, and he's already on this lurk here in Customs. Now he's going 0-6 at the minute. He's struggled to find an opening, but in this lurking position, he's highly likely to catch off any player that decides to rotate. For example, if Yogg feels a little bit too much pressure here in CC, he might drop the hatch. And the thing is here, it's a tough decision for Sloth. Does he try and go for one of these vertical nades to flush out this position? Or does that in turn reveal his position?
That's 3 drones and almost a firefight with 2 different people here for Yogga.
Oh my god, stop droning them, just shoot him!
That is a lot, and they've only got 3 left. There's a minute 50 to go in the round itself. A huge amount of cost has just come out of that single position, and Yogga has gone uncontested on the back of it. More impact, more explosion, more push. And what do Heroic really have to show for it?
Nothing, because Sloth wasn't watching the rotate out. He was instead going for vertical nades, and so Yogg is allowed to escape. Like you said, only 3 drones left remaining for Heroic, and not much map control. You can see break room, CCTV, Customs downstairs, but that's just about it. There's still all this armory hold, and that's not even the site. It's Customs. It's rather Vincent Workshop. Finally a pick. Finally Heroic have something to write home about.
Yeah, they finally got the player up here. Okay, maybe the utility was worth it, but here's the next fight about to pop over the top. Kino almost led into the one with Sloth. Does in the end. They seem to have a bit of sharpness about it. Who's going to be the one that gets the final shot? Sloth wants to try and double down to find his first here, but Kino's having none of it. They know that they can still pull back to the site. They know that they don't have to play their life in that situation. Instead, he's going to see if he can try and get a sneaky catch on the player that enters. There, a lot of damage to Doom. Not quite the full bite, but Spirits has the last bit of deliciousness, and they're removed from the board itself. A 4 versus 4, 40 seconds, and they still have vertical control. They still have
Sloth.
And they're locked inside, and there's Sloth.
No way, man.
Knocked out. And there's suddenly just Heroic trying to scramble for something.
Yeah, that they are. Uno, fortunately, is able to find Gomez 3v3, but there's just 15 seconds left, and I realistically don't see a way for them to get in this. Perhaps Uno can scrape together a couple of headshots. One more, why not? Put that diffuser down, son. Diaz has got a clutch once again. He might! Diffuser cold on the ground. Heroic, you can't be doing it like that.
That was Uno and the world on his back.
You went from 0-19 to fucking 9-5, Uno. You were so good. Keep it up, buddy. Let's go. Keep it up.
Right there, bro. They're not there.
Keep it up.
Kino was shouting the wrong way.
Shouting the right things, though, I tell you what.
Oh, that is devastating. I mean, M80 were in the right place at the right time and had the right C4. But Uno grabbed that round with 15 seconds left, shoved it on his back and say, this isn't over yet. And Heroic just weren't up to that speed, and it's synonymous with how that round felt. There's such a lack of coordination. Okay, I know it's a big asterisk. This isn't their roster. Last minute changes. They've come in to try and do the best that they can. It's so far from easy to go up against a team like M80, which has not had a change in a long time and has had a great year. But
10 seconds left.
it's that little bit of just not having that trade game set up, that cover.
Yeah, man, it's the tiny things that are falling apart for Heroic are proving so very costly. You can't afford to lose a 3v1 like that when your two players are caught off so far away, so unable, so helpless. Heroic now to get on their bike and start taking the fight to M80, because as it stands, they're losing their map pick and it's not looking to get better anytime soon.
Okay, let's brush that one off, but I'm not going to say it's easy. Obviously, Heroic a long time ago used their attack timeout. At this point, they can only try and play the game ahead of them. It's the first round. It's the first attack that sort of come together, and the pressure comes instantly back towards them. But look at this. 2 Heroic players, 3 Heroic players already dead. A 4 versus 2 in the opening minute. Okay, M80 have suffered scraps and scrapes across the board, but it's so early, they hadn't even begun to look at the wallpaper in the building before they were removed and sent backpacking.
Well, time to bait. Oh no, it didn't even land the Gon 6 shot onto the Azami keeper barrier. Well, at least he might get some cameras here. Dead player running out from East Stairs. Unfortunately, there's not a lot of cameras that are really that valuable on border.
No.
So he's not going to get a lot of information from that. Let's see if Uno can string together a couple of nice headshots like he did last round. This could become possible, but Grizzly's going to have to help him out. Oh, mirror window facing him. The call out is going to be that Grizzly's going towards office and the entire team's going to know about it. Maybe Uno's going to try and shoot that mirror window open from below.
Yeah, that's very clever. A bit of coordination, force them off, and maybe even get the fight with the player, but definitely gets the mirror window and makes it impossible to hold that and just lock the push. Grizzly, they're going to see if they can try and force the fight, but hey, who's that? Azami. Hey, who's that? Azami. And it turns what was an awkward firefight into a closed door. 50 seconds-ish left. And as I said before, most of them died before anything had even begun to put pressure onto the site itself. They have some utility, but they have so much left to do ahead of them. A slow sneak round on the back. Barely anything they can see at this point. Well, there's a fight that goes away from them. Grizzly caught out by Spirits, and Yoga finds one on the stairs. Map point.
Yeah, it's turned out to be quite a dominant one for M80 as they get fired up. Heroic, in contrast, trying to reconcile their position. 6-2 deficit.
To go standard. Our aggression is not working, our solo shit is not working, so we have to just go standards now.
Okay, let's try that. Slow and steady.
Or
Slow and steady, hey?
I mean, that's the conversation, isn't it?
Attackers
I'm still trying to piece together if that was our game. But, yeah, they've got to see if they can try and do something. They've got to see if they can try and offer something extra, because at this point, it has been the M80 show. It was expected to be a tough game from this group. Let's be honest, this group was one of the hardest ones to call who was going to be stepping up. phase you expected to be towards the top. They had a rocky start and then pulled themselves back. But M80 were, for a lot of people, the second on the money. They're, as I said, a good team that's had a good year of Siege. A consistent year of Siege is one of those impossible bingo things to tick off. You have seen it with every major winner. You have, well, one of them is in this group. You have seen it with the previous SI finalists, and out of all of them, sure, they haven't won anything. Sure, it's generally been quarters or groups that they've been able to get to, but still, they've been able to get there. Not many people have that.
And M80, to be honest, like struggled to upkeep their the standard that they had established for themselves with their Berlin performance. They really struggled to convert into stage 3. They got picked up by M80, and going into SI, on the one hand, you're thinking, well, if they live up to their Berlin performance, they're probably going to top their group. But if they don't, you know, there's a full chance that they could be first rounded. Now, fortunately, we're starting to see some of the M80 that perhaps we've seen in the past, and that includes Diaz spawn picking June and trading himself out directly. Heroic, fortunately, might finally have some wind beneath them as they finally taken a man advantage here.
I mean, it's two names that have taken themselves off the board here. Joom, who's been able to have some big performances, taking out Diaz, who is maybe the best performance of anyone out of the whole tournament so far, and he doesn't seem like he wants to slow down just yet, sitting on the 8-3, but there's still work to be done here, and we might still get a little bit more bite out of this. They have the body advantage. It's not the most common thing that you've been able to give towards Heroic at this point, and they have it without it having to come off the heroics of a single player. They're going for a steadier push. We heard it from the comms.
Oh no!
Steadier frost mat.
What kind of silver frost mat is that? It's genius, and it works wonders. That said, Heroic managed to scrape back. One pick, one trade, 3-2 in the advantage, and look at that, no fear. Noodle marches forward, taking this map control. Drone ahead of him. They've got to use their numbers to their advantage now. Kino and Gomez to try and clutch up on match point.
Sloth got his first kill of the series off of the back of that as well. It's about time. He almost has Diaz's stats, but in a much sadder order, unfortunately. Let's see if he can try and push that a bit further on. 50 seconds. 2 remaining M80 players stacked up and keeping a bit mobile around the site itself. The pocket barbed wire, I feel like we might not get the use of that. But what we are getting use of is the verticality. Force a bit of space. 40 seconds, the longer that ticks on, obviously makes things riskier. They do not have the hard breach left to be able to get the hatch open. So what they're going to have to do is just blind charge this by the end. It's awkward to break your way into the site, and you have to do it this way. Via the workshop, via those soft bathroom walls, and via Gomez gets one, gets traded. 20 seconds, Kino, he's in the clutch position here. He's able to do a lot of damage to the first, but they're now tucked behind the shield. He's going close in for the rotate. Grizzly's going for the plant. They pull off. They're so close to the fight. The shotgun round on the other end. The ping's on the player. He's popped up looking for the cover. He needs them. There's Noodle though. And it was a dangerous jiggle.
And it was. Heroic lucky to have managed to pull that across the line. It looked very scary there for a moment, but a few smiles, a few laughs. A chance to get back in the game.
Yeah. Rogue came down from fucking 0-5 to win 7-5. One round at a time. We just need to
work
together.
I love this. Couldn't have said it better myself. One round at a time, work together. And Heroic did indeed that round. They might have had a few hiccups, but when it came down to it, they were ready to just execute on the same thing. You know, people say it's far better to execute a bad plan with good teamwork than to have a good plan and no teamwork whatsoever. It's the nature of Siege. You can have the best strat in the book, but what trumps all of that is teamwork and brilliance.
I like that little bit of camaraderie. Rogue came back from 0-5. Koi, if you're unfamiliar, they recently made a partnership. Koi did. You know, anything is possible. It's the beauty of this game is that at the start of a round, nothing else is weighed into it other than a fresh round.
That's it.
You have all the players, all the pockets. There's no economy, no costing things, no other things. Just Siege, baby.
The real economy of Siege is 2 things, in my opinion. One, information.
Yep.
You reveal information about your strategies and how you're going to play around when you play it, and then the next round, the enemy team will have a better idea of how you played. So you really need to use that to your advantage to be able to predict and then bring something different or play differently. The other economy is mentality, and we're starting to see Heroic put a little bit more in the bank. they're supporting each other, they're believing in each other.
Well, the first economy was one that wasn't used very well before by Heroic. We talked about how many drones were at the cost of the far end this time. Look how many they have. Wow! They've been able to hold on to their intel. Their slower and steadier approach is definitely netting them more of a result. There's the first kill, as we saw. Diaz gone. Kino as well just before that. And suddenly, once again, Heroic, they have a man advantage. And they have it without the trades coming directly to them. And very early on, it is almost an entirely different face team from the first attack from them we saw.
And you know what, this is perfect as well, Emmy, because now Heroic just need to simplify. M80 is going to be making plays to try and equalize, as we saw from Gomez, and as long as Heroic do their due diligence, you can play it slow, you've got plenty of time. Just trade out any engagement you might make, mitigate the risks, and that's the way that Heroic can secure this round. And once again, take it one round at a time. Oh, beautiful nade! Where on earth did that come from? Spirits 1v5. He can dream it, but I don't think it's going to happen.
Oh dear, the terrifying sounds of the world collapsing around you, and a flawless for Heroic.
You injured him. I don't know who injured the orange.
I needed down middle.
Yeah, you probably injured him.
Yeah, from office.
I don't know who downed the Oryx. Some random grenade down
It
metal.
was Sloth, I needed down metal. It's great. But that's the thing is, I know you talked about it at the start, and I'm so happy that it was painted perfectly at the end there. Information. People, if you're watching this and you want to start improving at Siege, the first golden lesson, once taught with an iron fist by the man, the myth, Fabian, the two-time, the greatest of all time, in his own words, is drones are the most important bit of utility. Drones are the driving force. They had 9 at the end of the round there versus 2 the last time they attacked that place. Phenomenal. Look at the results.
We can do this, but we can have to do round by round. And every fragger now, come on, for fuck's sake! Bubble a little bit in your blood now, come on. Find that fucking bubble. Let's give everything, boys. Everything the next 2 rounds. Let's fucking go.
Chris. Let's go.
Looks like they've got some wood, chucked it in the burner, and they've turned on the heat. He's gonna boil their blood, Mr. Officer.
I mean, he's like the most positive guy.
Yeah, I love it.
He's such a dad.
I was gonna say
he is a dad.
He's like a soccer dad.
Yeah, he's great. He's really the coach. Like, if there was a referee in the same sort of way that you would in Trent in soccer, you'd feel like he'd be like, come on, like all of this stuff. But he really is an energy in and amongst himself.
Well, that's exactly what Heroic need right now. It's not like they're playing strategically in significant error. All game, it's been about teamwork. It's been about being synced. It's been about being fired up. It's been about confidence. You talk about Sloth, right? He was 0 and 8 at one point. I don't know about you, but me playing Siege, there is no worse feeling than going like most of the way through a match and being like, hang on a second, I have done nothing for my team. I haven't even found a single kill yet. Every gunfight, there's nothing I can do. And as soon as you dispel that by nading down metal and randomly killing an Oryx,
I needed that metal.
I needed that metal. That brings it back. It brings it back, and that's what Heroic are doing. They're bringing it back.
Can they do the last 2 rounds? The first half at the tack timeout from Heroic, and after that, they're able to get 2 rounds. They're only 2 up until very recently, and M80 have now taken theirs before they find themselves eking closer and closer to map point. 2 in a row is enough for them. They're back here. One of the sites that obviously they've found some success on before. Doom, very quick, let in. And that is a sharpness by the players who have come in with a new face of dedication.
I love that for Sloth. Opening up with the sledgehammer, and Doom is the gun to march on forward. Heroic, they are looking swell. They found their mojo, and they're ready to party. Opening pick, Kino's gone down, but now it's about taking more map control. M80 are peeling back, they're playing together, they're not looking to take ones. They've still got a lot of map control in their favor, this mirror window in CCTV, worried about losing the control, but Heroic have slowed it down.
That's it, back to the drone game, back to seeing if they can try and piece some of these puzzles together, as you said, that mirror window. And Sloth, he had a very slow start to the game, but if his impact comes now, well, that's the biggest impact he can have, hoping they lean back into this engagement. They don't even see it. Grizzly on the back end. 5 versus 2. Out of nowhere, Diaz steps in, gets one back. It's quite big that he's still alive because over the past couple of rounds, he has been the first body pretty much both times. Here's the shutdown. The fight to Yoga on the back end gives a bit of the game away of the position, and Noodle's just going to hold off and wait for the reinforcements to arrive. There they are. There's the scrappiness of the fight,
no.
It's down to a super shorty, and now it's down to just Diaz. Looks for an engagement. They're all around you. They're all around you. A scrappy one over the door. They're going to stick the kid in the meantime, but Heroic. You compare that round to the one where Uno almost clutched, and this is 2 entirely different teams.
Keep up the confidence, guys. Keep up the fucking...
Absolutely, it's confidence, and Heroic have found it.
Have to play, Chan.
M80 now, a shell of their former selves. Body language not looking good for them. A flick through the strap book, is that really going to help you out at this juncture, mate? Heroic have patience, and M80, they've got hands in their pants. They kept on moving. They kept looking to re-aggress. Heroic, really, the majority of what they did that round was one nice little play in through Passport to find the opener, and then they sat, they waited patiently, they droned out positions, and M80 kept giving them opportunities to further their man advantage. M80 need to read into this. They need to realize that if they start playing it back to basics, Heroic aren't going to have these advantages to convert. And now M80 have one final chance to close out this map in regulation. Otherwise, if Heroic can push OT, there's no question they will have that momentum on their side.
I mean, Koi might have brought it back from 0 to 5. Heroic have almost brought it back from 2 to 6. There is huge jumps here. There's so much pressure, and how they've readapted, especially without their own team talk during that duration, obviously apart from the one that was called halfway through this rise and resurgence back into the game by their opponents. It could culminate here in at least overtime, maybe something more. And it's their map. They're just trying to make sure that if it goes away from them, it's not a fight. Or it is, even. The other way around. It wasn't a fight. It was a slaughter.
Oh, this has been a brawl in this game, that's for sure. M80 started exceptionally well, but they struggle to follow through here. Gomez looking to make an aggressive play. He's prepped this window here on AC. He almost times it perfectly, but he doesn't quite have the conviction to commit to the fight.
It was cautious. The drone rolls through a second later. There's a bit of motion coming behind them as well. The C4 to the window, but they're not quite there. They're stacked up, and again, you can see there's a little bit of edginess in the play. There's a rotation underneath, though. They're offering some support to that player. They're thinking about giving themselves the lead in via the open hole onto the window itself, but the flashes are coming flat. The pressure's coming flat too. Noodle, with a little bit of energy about him, is looking for the long-range fight with the Ash. There's now 2 players stacked up underneath, and they're just trying to buy themselves some time in this. The openness to drop down the hatch if they need to, the break, and the rotation. If this goes unchecked, this can be huge. They're up. Oh. They just missed the back. They've got to time it. They almost get the snap, but they cannot quite get the lockdown. Noodle gets locked a little bit out. Kino gets one. Spirits does go down, and in amongst the chaos, some pressure onto the back end of the hatch itself. And, well, with them down on the far end, they should be able to capitalize, but they do not want to throw themselves entirely into it.
Oh, this is a blitz, Emmy. This is back and forth. It's a messy take upstairs here. Heroic do manage to get that control. M80 fell back, losing just the one player. But of course, it's even now, the scoreline. Grizzlies Twitch drones have done good work clearing that mirror window in Fountain already, and now it's time for Sloth to bring out the hammer. It's a thing we're all fighting for here at the 6 Invitational. And Sloth is going to be making his best use of it, getting this vertical game begun. And M80 have completely evacuated the majority of Workshop and the site. They're spread out there looking to play retake, and that means Heroic have got to get a wriggle on.
That's it. That's the important part right now. We've not really seen this from M80 before, the retake strategy. They've pulled themselves further and further away. There's a little bit of presence still on the side, and they just see the side. But look at the timer, James. They got to get a bit of a shift on. 20 seconds passes over. They're going to have to go for a bit of a hot drop here and hope they can aggress their way right through the site to get that kit planted down. But last second plants have not worked for them before. Will they work this time? Uno, he's tucked on the shoulder and the shiver. The C4 doesn't quite get it. There's a rotation and a spray through. Noodle gets one. The kick goes down. Grizzly has a cover, and Heroic explode over the second story. Kino, he finds himself alone and gets the head off of at least the planter, but the verticality is gone. The stretch into Workshop looks a million miles. He's gonna hold, bait and hope, but all they get is an overtime.
And a well-deserved one at that for Heroic.
Good problem solving. This is what we need, exactly this.
Fucking almost!
The difference between Uno and Mr. Officer. Good problem solving. This is what we need.
It's amazing. It's beautiful. It's exactly what Heroic have needed. They're firing up. They're firing on all cylinders. And they've just won 4 rounds straight on their attack, Emmy. Pushing overtime now. They will continue their attack. Can they make it 5?
I mean, if they do, that is a heck of a statement here over the other side. It's not just that it was only really, 4 rounds of success for any defense total throughout this whole map. It's just when they've come and how much of it has been in Heroic's favor. As we said there, M80, they went for a retake idea, but I just cannot get over how much Heroic have changed throughout this game. It is unbelievable that this roster went from the mistakes that we saw to where they're at. And I don't even think M80 believe it either.
And what a testament to Uno's leadership, and that of Mr. Officer, of course, as well. Uno being the most experienced player in the server, having played on G2 near their peak. He's really bringing a level of maturity into this roster that I don't think he's ever really had to have in the past. Uno started out and he was a nutty fragger. That was when he got picked up by Ants, when he got picked up by G2. That was his role. He was the young gunner. And now he's having to be the big brother of the group. He's going to have to, in these dire moments, get everyone fired up. And that's exactly what's happened here. Mr. Officer and Uno's leadership have gotten Heroic back into the game.
The Twitch to play against these mirror windows. They're going for the different alternate, and that's both of them. A great adaptation that's come through there from Grizzly, and they're causing problems. The breach will come through. They will catch the second, but the angle is dangerous enough. Oh no, my mirror window's open, Gomez sees, and at this point it's going to become much trickier to play against. They have eyes and angles. That one's open too, mate. They've already been and driven by both of these, so where do you sit, where do you stand, and where do you suddenly find yourself trying to hold on to any space? It does mean you got to be cautious on your approach. They work both ways. They can get the depth of the angle if they want it as well, but here they're going for this. The split push over the top, the pressure, the rotation. There's a player there on the stairs. Sloth seems to have a bit of an idea. He's sort of clearing it step by step. The spray comes, a bit of damage, but it's actually Noodle that suffers first against Gomez.
Who's still holding on here in Armory. Sloth about to greet him. A nade could well mean the death. The Spirit's playing on this Kiba barrier, but it's Choom to backstab from outside Armory. And that's the cue for Gomez to peace out. 4v4 now. Heroic have top floor map control, and Sloth is still alive. He can get to work on this vertical game as soon as it's drone clear.
Heroic problem solving. That was the MO that was given to you and how you found yourself here. But the problem is a 4 versus 4 and the verticality's against you. That C4's in a dangerous place, but they just slip on by and out of there before they suffer the end. They have the drones. We can see them watching the rotations, keeping an eye on the flanks, the movement in their favor. There is still C4 on the board. A couple of impacts as well to see if they can try and do something deadly here. But we saw a last-second vertical push from the previous round that came out. We've also seen failures. To me, it's down to M80 to see if they can be the buffer. The break on the double door comes through. Yoka goes wide. They're going to see if they can stick the kit behind the smoke at this point. The noise is being covered. They're both stacked up. Do they know? I don't think they know. A post plant out of nowhere, and you can see there's a moment here where M80 need to fight their way up. They cannot quite make the stairs. They cannot quite make it through the core as well. Doom is watching the door, sees the end, and Heroic find another round in a row.
Yeah. Let's just trust each other.
It's a masterclass.
Let's fucking go, June!
Distracted on this smoke.
Let's go, Grizzly!
There's a reason you're the IGL, Uno. You're right. Yeah.
There's a reason you're the IGL, Uno. Trust each other, trust our calls. Heroic have just won 5 attacks in a row.
Don't lose the confidence now, okay?
Remember, guys, listen, shut the fuck up and listen. This strat, we don't have to retake anything unless we lose a position.